In this video, we're going to talk about another concept of Hapkido, and that is misdirections. So we've talked about circles a lot, and they do play into this concept. Everything kind of jumbles together anyway. But the idea I want to focus on in this video is changing your directions so that you can, fake your attacker into complying with the next technique that you're trying to do. In other words, say my goal is to perform a wrist lock on my attacker where I'm putting pressure on the wrist to try to take them down. Okay? In normal scenarios, if you try to do that to somebody, their first reaction is to resist and go the other way. So if I want to end up in that position, then what I want to do is start my defense in the opposite direction of that, because my opponent's natural reaction to that is going to be to resist it, meaning going in the opposite direction, and that's going to help me turn into the technique that I'm trying to do. So for example, if he's grabbing my wrist here, what I can do is I pull as if I'm going back this way. And what my opponent does is try to resist. See, this is our circle that we've been talking about. Let's go a little farther. So I pull in this circle, and then when I feel it's right, then I can put that wrist lock that I was trying to do, and it feels much easier from that scenario. Another example we have of this comes from one of the techniques that we have in our book that happens when an opponent's grabbing the sleeves from behind, and what I do is I step out as if I'm trying to pull away from my opponent and escape. And what most people do in that scenario is they pull back because they're trying to keep me close to them. And with that pull, I step behind, get under the arm, and then step into my armbar technique. Okay, but you should see a pattern in what I'm talking about, and that is starting in one direction and moving into the other. It's a very simple concept, and it's very psychological if you're in an altercation. And something very small as one motion can cause your opponent to create force. And what we learn in Hapkido is to use the force that your opponent applies to you to your advantage. So for another example, for demonstration, if I'm being grabbed at the wrist, I could pick my arm up like I'm going to the outside. That might make my opponent want to pull in. And then I turn that into a circle in this direction and then have my takedown position from here. Now, it doesn't always happen that your opponent's going to give you that exact right pull when you give him a push. And sometimes it doesn't work out in that scenario, but it really is not going to hurt you to start applying in one direction and then pulling to the other, because even if they don't do anything, you're still starting from square one and you're still having to perform that technique. But this is just a concept and an idea that you can apply and you can have in your muscle memory so that you're prepared to use it when the scenario arises. If you remember in my leg sweep video, we talked about guiding your opponent in one direction when you have your arms on top of each other, and then twisting that direction, on a dime, and then putting your leg behind them and turning that into the leg sweep. That is the same concept that I'm talking about here. But to take away from this video, just play around with these techniques. Hopefully you already have some in your arsenal that you can go from one to another, and try to practice different things with opponents. Give each other a chance to come up with things in your mind. That's the best way to come up with ideas. It's great to look at a book or a video and mimic a technique that you see. But it's probably even more beneficial on top of that to let your own mind create, because you have things that you're more comfortable with than the people are that made the techniques that you're practicing. So it's best to put your own twist on these techniques. I plan to have more of these concept videos to come. Thank you for watching, and keep training.